Hello and welcome to A Drink to the Past, the only podcast on the internet where you can see Chris playing Minecraft for the second week in a row, because we just added this gimmick to the YouTube version so you have something interesting for eye candy.
Probably might not always be Minecraft. I briefly considered making it Bennett Foddy's Getting Over It, but I figured me just swearing constantly might not ruin the podcast, but it might add like an unwelcome element to it.
Yeah. All right. And of course, if you're on YouTube, you now have a beautiful picture of myself and our new guest, Kevin O'Rourke. So, Kevin, say hi. Introduce yourself.
Hello. It is great to be on the podcast. Kevin O'Rourke, Long Island's finest, New York native, looking to drink some beer, talk some games, and talk some tabletop here.
Drink to that. That sounds good. So today on Sean Drinks Something Stupid, I have a Cosmo, which I don't know what a Cosmo is, but it's some red stuff that I get in a little bottle, and apparently I mix it with a shot of vodka, according to the label directions. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to have a Cosmo. Wonder if I should have ice on this. I'm not sure. Most of these little bottle that you mix with a shot of some kind of booze end up being like, look at us, it's sugar. And that's about it. So I'm expecting it's going to be like, there's nothing wrong with sugar, but yeah, it smells like sugar. So
Lancha.
Yeah, it's like maraschino cherry juice again, which I think is what I said about whatever the last cherry flavored thing. Yeah, it's like, I used to work at McDonald's, and like we would like put cherries on the shakes, and then like it would be like the fucking teenagers working at our store would totally just be like, yeah, can I bring home the last of that cherry juice? And that's what this tastes like. Ooh. Is the cherry. It's not terrible. If you like cherry stuff, apparently a Cosmo is for you. But I am getting like so bent out of shape about these fucking shooter bottles that it's like, mix this with a shot of something and it tastes like this, and I'm just like, it tastes like sugar and whatever booze I put in there.
I'm getting a little sick of the... this is not my favorite arc, the one where everything tastes like sugar.
Right? You're more a fan of the Arlong Park or the... what's the one everybody likes? The Saba Odi? I'm making One Piece jokes here and nobody's getting them.
One Piece right over my head here. Oof.
That's
right
okay.
There. It might have blown my hair back a little bit, too.
I was going to say...
I don't know if that was caught on camera.
I was going to say, I'm looking forward to Vento Arrero.
Right. I'm not sure. I'm like 400 episodes behind. Anyways, my name, as always, is Sean Michael Patrick Thompson. I'm the host of Drink to the Past, and we got my co-host here, Chris Audette.
Hi, I'm Chris Terrified Screeching Audette. I could make the noise, but I don't want to right now.
And special guest, Kevin O'Rourke. So it's going to be a fun time. Yeah.
Heck yeah, it's going to be a great time.
All right. So for you YouTube viewers, I have a special treat for you. I got here a box of magic cards, which is the Secret Lair Drop series, Godzilla Lands. So apparently my brother got these for me in March, back when my birthday was, and they just arrived in the mail. So I'm not totally sure what's in here other than 5 lands, at least basic lands, with special art that's themed around the Godzilla cards that came out in the Ikoria series. So for any of you Magic nerds, we're gonna be in for a treat here. So let's check it out. And if you're not viewing on YouTube, if you're on Podbean or Apple Podcasts, then definitely check us out on YouTube as well. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff, like I'm supposed to say, because I'm a generic podcast host.
I picked the best show to be on, but unfortunately I only have a little bit of Theros in front of me right now.
Awesome. Sweet. So, Kevin, I don't know if you watched the last podcast where I opened a pack of magic cards, but I opened it up. I didn't know what it was going to be, and it turned out to be a land pack. Oh. So this I know is a land pack. So this is pretty cool. The box here just says Secret Lair Drop series. I like this box, the Godzilla Lands. It says on one of the other sides. I am such a giant Godzilla fan that I am so nerding out about this. This is awesome. So
I'm amped to see this. Too.
Right
This
around.
is great.
Yeah, right when I open it, the first one is here. Has Godzilla in there, as you can see. It's kind of hard to see because it's a little reflective in the case there, but that's a mountain, I think. It's in Japanese or Chinese or something. That's kind of strange.
I'd hope it'd be in Japanese.
Yeah.
Probably be in Japanese.
I'm not sure if it's
Godzilla's homeland there.
I'm not sure if it's Japanese or Chinese. I'm not like it doesn't look like kanji, but it could be katakana or whatever, because Japanese has 3 written languages. I know I'm not that versed in it, but I know that they have more than English because I'm a stupid American. Awesome. So yeah, that looks really cool.
Super cool.
And the other ones are kind of really stuck in here, and I don't want to bend them. And now I'm like really paranoid that I'm gonna bend them. So this is a really awkward package. Thank you, Wizards of the Coast, for your awkward package. Ooh, this is interesting. So this is not a land. This is Nissa Who Shakes the World, which is a planeswalker I am not familiar with because I haven't actually kept up with Magic as much lately.
Oh god, what a powerful card!
Yeah,
too.
so
like doubles,
whenever you tap a forest for mana, add an additional
lands.
green. Yeah, so it's if you're playing a mono green, it's literally double your green whenever you tap a forest. That's crazy. So that's an awesome, just random card to be in there. So I guess the lands are just in here. Yeah, because I told my brother when these Godzilla cards were announced, I was just like, oh my god, I want these Godzilla cards. So yeah, I think this is the planes here, and I'm going to be very careful with these because these are all full art and shiny. So then this looks like the mountain here, and of course they all feature Godzilla. Got your swamp here. That is awesome. I am loving all this art because I love Godzilla and I love Magic. So this is awesome. Just trying to... Here's your mountain. Just trying to not, like, bend the edges or anything here. That's cool with the Godzilla climbing the mountain there. I don't know if you can see that. That's kind of difficult on the camera there. But, well, I thought the other one was swamp. Maybe this one was swamp. Maybe the other one was island. I'm not sure. So, yeah. So that's a cool little treat for anybody watching the YouTube version, because we have 5 lands and a podcast. Or 5 lands and a planeswalker, not a podcast. We're on a podcast.
Even if you're like watching this in the far future,
I screwed up and I have to drink.
I think Nissa fits the land theme too, like doubling your mana off land taps, right?
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. Like, I could totally work this in, because when they announced the Godzilla cards, I was totally like, I have an Elder Dragon Highlander, or after they officially published it, they renamed it, what did they rename it?
Commander.
Commander. Yeah, so I have a Commander deck.
Commander player.
Yeah, I have a Commander deck that is all themed around dinosaurs, and my general is Gishath.
Great Naya general.
Yeah, he's an incredible general. Somebody else just logged on. Hi, Nick. Just gonna log on and stalk us there, Nick. What the fuck?
Can you hear me?
You just do regular crashing of a podcast.
Right, yeah. Our regular podcast
I was just trying to watch Chris's stream.
Oh, sure.
I'm innocent.
Well, now you have to drink because you're on the podcast, Nick. Shut up and drink.
I'll be right back. Let me get
Time to take a shot.
Awesome. All right, so let's get into our first actual podcast topic. Let's talk about Whatcha Playin. So Whatcha Playin is the part of the podcast where we just talk about the video games or tabletops we've been playing lately. So let's start with Chris. Whatcha Playin other than Minecraft?
Well, other than Minecraft, let's see. I've been playing a lot of Age of Empires 2 with friends. Yes, Nick. Excited gasp, that's right.
That's actually why I came looking for you.
Who are you playing as in that game? What unit?
Civ, I've been playing a lot of Franks. I've more recently switched to Teutons, because I'm not very good yet. I've also got back into playing Dota 2.
Oh, nice.
Which I've actually been having a lot more fun with that game. And I was briefly playing Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, which is still just ridiculous.
I've just seen gameplay of that game, and it's just so silly. I'm just like, I almost need to play this.
It is very frustrating. I was playing this right before the podcast, and then I fell down to the beginning, and I said, okay, I'm going to play this on the podcast. Because I think there should be some limits on what I say and when I say it. Some of the time.
Some of the time.
Yeah. Not all of the time, of course.
All right. So, Kevin, what you been playing?
I've got a good list going. So recently I got into playing some ROM hacks of Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, you were talking about that a little bit in the Discord there.
Yeah, I was chatting it up. So me and Skip from the Discord, my girlfriend, we've been playing, and we're going to do a little like Ocarina of Time online this weekend and try to like pair up and play the game like multi-world style. But we've been playing Zelda 64 Dusk and Dawn, and I'm not sure if it's Dusk and Dawn or Dawn and Dusk, but forgive me for arranging D's in different orders. The Missing Link, and recently Master of Time. And these are super awesome ROM hacks of Ocarina of Time, like tons of extra content, new cutscenes, additional extra items. Like, these games are a ton of fun to play. But in the downtime, like in between those, I've been playing Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire. The last time, like I played Pillars when it first came out, I backed it on Kickstarter. And I waited a little bit on Pillars of Eternity 2 because I was playing Divinity Original Sin 2 and Divinity Original Sin 1. I love those games. I'm a big D&D 5e fan.
Nice.
And Pillars of Eternity 2 feels 5e with its own flavor over it, and I find that like really great. I've been a little overwhelmed with my quest log, so I've kind of put a break on that. But I've been enjoying the ROM hacks. I've been enjoying Pillars 2. I am inundated with games. I have no qualms on everything that I'm playing. It's great.
Ooh, awesome. All right, so
I did forget one game, which was Anodyne, and your mention of ROM hacks brought this up. It's basically if Link's Awakening was mixed with the creepypasta game. And it's surprisingly interesting. I kind of want to spend more time with it.
I feel like Link's Awakening is its own kind of creepypasta game. Where
a little bit, yeah.
World,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, this game is
Anodyne?
heavy. Yeah, Anodyne. It's kind of heavier on that element. Because I remember going to an area and going to a dock and being like, "Oh, it's a fisherman. We'll talk to this fisherman." And then I hit him. And when I went up to talk with him, I hit him with my broom and I knocked him into a whirlpool and he died.
Wow. I guess he became the chum.
And then his body became an entrance to a dungeon. So, yeah, it's one of those games.
Make a chum.
Nice.
Anodyne.
Oh.
Yeah, well, speaking of Link's Awakening, one of the things I did this week was I finished my Link's Awakening remake 3-heart hero mode run. So that was a ton of fun, just going because Link's Awakening is not it's like a decently easy game in the remake anyway. But it gave a nice challenge to it, kind of going back through it on a 3-heart run on hero mode, because I died about 190 times.
Holy
in
moly.
the
how many times is that against Hothead?
The what?
How many times is that against Hothead?
Not very many, actually. I think one death against Hothead. Actually, I think the most I died against a boss was actually against the Turtle Rock entrance. where the
Oh
Turtle
my
Rock
gosh,
comes alive,
yes.
because I come in there and like it's like once you go onto that screen first, the two buzzards come at you, and
Yep.
like if you don't like get rid of them right away, then they'll do like on hero mode. I think they each do like 2 hearts damage anyway.
Yeah.
So if one of them hits you once, it's 2 hearts damage, and then of course I think the Turtle Rock dragon thing itself actually hits you for 2 hearts damage as well. So it's basically if you get hit twice by anything in that encounter, then you're dead. So I died a lot more in that, which was surprising because I thought that I would die because one of the hardest bosses in the original was Evil Eagle.
Oh my gosh.
Because I remember in the original, you'd get blown off the edge, and then it would literally reset all of his hit points and stuff, and you'd have to do basically the same fight from the beginning. But in the remake, they kind of made that like, okay, it'll save the damage. So if you hit him 4 or 5 times, and then you get blown off, he'll still be hit 4 or 5 times. So it's a little bit easier in that regard. So I only died... Actually, I don't think I died versus Evil Eagle.
Okay.
So
I
I was actually kind of... I died a lot in Eagle's Tower, but I did not die against Evil Eagle. So
I'm trying to remember who I figured the hardest boss from that was.
I think it's the first
I
boss.
mean,
'cause you
Evil
have to
Eagle
use
is pretty
hearts.
tough.
Yeah, but he did that at 3 hearts, so...
So the funny thing about Evil Eagle and Link's Awakening DX is you can glitch out of order and hit him if you beat the 8th temple, Turtle Rock, before you get to the 7th temple, Eagle's Tower. You can get the magic rod and use that against Evil Eagle, and if you do, you can hit him with 3 hits, and he's completely wiped out.
Oh wow, it's kind of cool.
Completely dodge the second phase. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You can't do that in the remake, but
yeah, because I used the boomerang in the remake because I got the boomerang before before Face Shrine in the remake, but it's kind of annoying how they nerfed the boomerang in the remake because it's like
Wait, it's nerfed?
it is so
That thing
nerfed.
is still powerful
Yeah.
as hell.
Yeah, because in the original,
out
it would
Death Eye
literally
too, yeah.
one-shot, like, almost every enemy. It was like the final
it's been
boss,
nerfed
I
from
think...
God tier to epic tier.
Yeah.
It's not even epic tier at this point, too, because the bow got nerfed, too, and it feels like pretty weak.
Yeah, compared to the bow, it's still incredible.
But on the other hand, I feel like just the quality of life improvements to the interface and stuff kind of make up for it, so it's still just an easier game in general.
It's so much better.
I really like the remake, but I really like the original, and I really like having a busted-ass boomerang, so...
the music, am I right?
Fuck yes.
The music has,
I will drink to that.
so many heaters, like tons of bangers.
I did like the
Lights
original
in the
Tall
remake.
Mountains more.
Oh,
I like the original.
you like the original more?
I don't know why. I think just the ideal
I
tones
love it.
hit
I think
harder.
it really depends
It's
on the
good,
track,
but-
because on some of the tracks I will be like, totally, the remake just amplifies it so much, but on a couple of particular ones, I feel like just the original gets you on how good it is as an arrangement and the nostalgia in the same time. So I feel like some of the original tracks can get you as like a double header.
Well,
I think,
it wasn't the nostalgia for me. Like, it was just the actual track itself. Like, I think because it was with horns in the original, whereas the remake was like violins and other string instruments. And I think the horns just had more of an impact for me personally. So if it's nostalgia for horns more than anything else.
Right.
Like,
You're
I've had
just a
that
horny
tune
bastard.
playing in my head without knowing where it was from. You know.
This one's for the horns.
Nick, what you playing? What video games you been playing, or tabletops you've been playing this week?
The only thing new has been Age of Empires 2.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So we've already covered that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I'm pretty bad about trying new games.
Awesome.
Don't look at me.
All right, so shall we get into our News and Booze segment?
Let's do it.
All right, so News and Booze this week is actually pretty simple, because there's not many news topics that I've seen, at least in the video game / tabletop world. So in the News and Booze segment, we also rate our booze on a scale of 3 to 17. So Kevin, you go first. What do you rate that beer? 3 to 17.
What do I rate that beer? The beer that I'm
The
having?
beer that you are drinking right now.
It's Bud Light, though. That's like a 1.
I'll drink to that. I am not a fan of Bud.
If
You know,
can drink
I've
today,
had
you can
I've
drink
had Bud
anything.
Light as a musician several times. That just like I'll go to a bar and they'll be like, "You can drink as much Bud Light as you want. I don't care," you know, and
That's
stuff
what it's
like
Yeah,
that.
for.
and they click the faucet on the sink.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. So with Bud Light, they actually the one thing that legitimately impressed me is one time I was at a VFW and they said, "Okay, yeah, it's an open bar. You guys can come up to the bar and we'll just tell them you're with the band and we'll cover your tab, no matter how much you drink." And I'm like, "Sweet, man!" And I go up to the bar. I'm like, "What kind of beer you got?" They're like, "We got Bud Light." I'm like, "Oh." Okay, and so,
How disappointing.
and the one thing that legitimately impressed me is that I had 5 of them and no buzz.
Wow.
Yeah, that should.
I
give
mean,
you
that sounds about right.
something.
Yeah.
Nick, what you
They could've
drinking?
said, "You've got Michelob. You're set."
Right.
I've had I think it was 10 Bud Lights one night, and that was the drunkest I've ever been because harder booze makes me throw up, but Bud Light was just putting me to sleep. But I was super drunk.
Right.
Bud Light
So, Nick,
is
what you
just
drinking right now?
fine.
I'm just drinking a Coors Banquet. We'll give it a
All right.
8.
Yeah, Coors Banquet, I
Wow.
feel like, is better than the average Coors product. I don't like most of Coors, which is... Some people think that's, hilarious that I come from Colorado and I don't like Coors, and I'm like, it's just generic light beer. It's the same shit. I don't
Do
care.
you ski or snowboard?
Occasionally.
Same thing.
Smoke weed?
Do you smoke
man.
weed?
You don't have to answer that.
I
on the
don't.
podcast.
I don't smoke weed
It's-
because if I smoke
that's
weed at
good?
my job, then they fire me. So I'm like, okay, that's a good excuse not to.
Everyone from a state doesn't do the thing their state's known for. What?
Crazy. I got my Colorado hat and everything, right? I actually bought this on my road trip today when I was coming back home because I was down at the Great Sand Dunes National Park camping the
Nice.
last couple of days. So that was a ton of fun. And every time I go on a road trip, I got a hat. So that's part of our video content is my random hat of the week because I have a
That's great.
fuckload of hat.
As a boozer on this podcast, I have to say, as a New Yorker, I say that it's
Oh boy.
Coors. And I have been buried, murdered, crucified under war, death, famine, plague, and whatever other sins there are, of not saying that it's Coors.
Coors or
I say Coors. However,
It's-
I've been instructed that it's Coors.
It's more. I think that's like a regional thing. It's like a regional accent.
Right,
Like
yeah,
how
it's like-
Colorado pronounces
I
mountain.
find that reassuring, actually.
Right,
'cause
yeah,
if
it's
people
like-
are getting upset about that. It means they don't have worse things to be upset about.
In Illinois, I have been murdered and raked over the coals for calling it a Coors. Core.
It's
mean,
it's
it's not
like
a
how
Coors, it's
everybody
Coors.
outside
It's
of
a Coors.
Colorado says
I mean, you are wrong,
mountains,
but I wouldn't.
and
murder
we
you for
in
it.
Colorado say mountains. We don't have a T in the middle of the words. It's just mountains.
Yeah.
It's not
Mountains.
mountains.
Yeah.
The only reason we
Mountains.
might be wrong about mountains is because there's mountains in other places.
No,
Coors is
no,
brewed
we
in
are from Colorado.
so we get a
If
monopoly
there is
Right,
on
yeah,
anything
there's
we are
only one
right
Coors.
about in Colorado, it is fucking mountains. That is the one thing that we can claim to be right about,
New York,
no
All
matter
yeah,
what.
right.
in
Adirondacks.
Colorado are called mountains. Other places outside of Colorado, maybe they're mountains. I don't know. But Colorado mountains are mountains.
So,
This is
anyways,
facts.
I'm gonna rate my Cosmo that I just finished like a 4 out of 10. It's like fucking sugar. I
Oh,
don't
wow.
care.
4 out of 10, not
But
even
my
13
beer of the
or
week
17.
is Land Shark.
Oh, Land Sharks, OP, man. Those are great.
Oh yeah, it was funny actually. My brother, who gave me this pack of random Godzilla lands, like when he was about to come over, he didn't actually tell me why he was coming over. He just said it came in the mail, and I didn't know at the time it was this Godzilla lands, but. He was like, it came in the mail. I'm going to come over right now. Is there anything else you need? And I was like, I don't know, a 6-pack of beer. And he said, okay. And he brought me these Land Sharks. So,
Good brother.
thank you,
Good.
my brother Dan, for these Land Sharks. Yeah, because these are
Dan.
from Margaritaville Brewing Company in St. Louis, and these are a not bad lager. Actually, I am just fine with these Land Sharks. So I'm going to rate that. Lager is still just not my beer of choice. I'm more of a like dark, heavy kind of stout person. But I'm gonna rate that a good 12 out of 17.
Oh wow,
That's not bad.
that's powerful.
So, Chris, what you drinking?
I had this on an earlier podcast, so I kind of know how I feel about it already. But I'm drinking another Odell Brewing Company Peach Stand Rambler, and I'm still enjoying this. It's nice and refreshing.
All right, what do you rate that on a
Sounds
scale
kinda
of
sweet.
3 to 17?
14, I'd give it. I feel like the
Pretty good.
hotter out it is, the better it tastes.
All right. So in that case, we'll get into the only case of... I only actually have one news topic on our News and Booze segment, which is Cuphead has landed on PlayStation 4.
Yes,
So, yeah.
an Xbox exclusive.
Yeah,
So
totally.
another game I'm not going to play.
Beer.
Yeah, so...
No, it's on Steam.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I still haven't bought
And so is
Cuphead
Slow
because,
Tour now,
like,
too.
so long ago they said, okay, Cuphead is coming to Switch, and there's a physical version coming that's gonna have all the DLC, and I, like a dumbass,
Yeah.
have been waiting for the physical version, and I have not got it yet, after, like, I think they announced it, like, February in 2019 or something, and I'm just like,
They announced
when
it
the
before-
fuck is it coming? Give it to me! I will buy it! But now they're
You
like,
wanna talk
okay, now we're
physical
launching the
version, Stardew
game.
Valley too.
Yeah, I'm just like,
I
where
love
is
that
it?
game. But
So yeah, any general Cuphead love / hype for this game? Are you guys getting it on PS4?
I did. I'm not getting it for PS4 because I already have it for Steam.
Right.
Ditto.
But I enjoyed the little bit of time I spent with the game, and I really love the soundtrack.
Awesome.
Cuphead.
I heard it was difficult, and since I'm not allowed to play games on easy mode, it's kind of scared me a little.
It's difficult, but it's not unfairly difficult.
Yeah.
I think you would get through it. I think
Very
you'd be
few games
disappointed
are.
by.
unfair.
I think you'd be disappointed by how little time you spent with it.
It's, I don't know, like, Cuphead is weird. It falls into, like, the semblance of, like, you have a platformer that ties into, like, a shmups game that's, like,
Shmups?
uber hard. Oh, I love me some shmups, like
What's
Darius.
shmups?
Shoot 'em up games.
Oh.
It's like a Mega Man
Darius
X,
or-
kinda.
Okay.
Oh, sorta, yeah. I
I'm not
think
a
Darius
professional.
when I think of these games.
I liked all
Or
the
like
Mega Man
Re
X
for
games,
games
but
like that.
I also really suck at just every Mega Man game ever.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
So
I'm
wait.
terrible at Mega Man. I've never beat
Now-
a single Robot Master, not one.
Oh my
I challenge
gosh,
you.
that's
That
terrible.
bad.
We need to change this.
I
Mega
agree.
Man and Mega Man X?
Hmm.
I feel like X would be harder, but oh my
I
god.
played
Really?
a pretty good amount of Mega Man
Thought I could
Legends,
use it.
and I think that's the farthest I've ever got in a Mega Man game.
Oh
Was
yeah,
Mega Man
Legends is
Legends
very
the one
different.
for? Was that the one for
It was-
64?
It was the 3D one for
64 and
PlayStation
PS1.
1. I didn't know it was.
Ah.
I didn't know it came out on N64. That's kind of interesting.
It
It
was
wa-
Mega Man 64.
Oh, was it?
Oh yeah, there was Mega Man 64. God, that was a weird game.
Huh.
That game feels like
Yeah,
a fever dream.
it didn't really like. You had to like turn with like the analog stick, and you'd like pivot around like Bubsy style and like point your gun at people. Not so
Yeah.
great.
Awkward. It worked pretty well
Yeah,
with
very
dual stick
awkward.
controls. I wonder
Yeah,
why
pretty
PlayStation was investing in those.
I mean, yeah, PS1. You think about it though, you only had that D-pad to romp around with.
Right? Yeah.
Kind of similar to N64. when you
Anyways,
think about it.
yeah, that's all our news and booze is that Cuphead is on PS4. So I'm kind of interested, but I'm like, just if they give me a PS4 physical version before before the Switch physical version, that's the one I'm gonna buy. Whichever one comes out physical first, I don't care. I'm gonna buy it.
All right.
So let's get into our table topic for the day, shall we? So
Yes.
talk about some tabletop news. That's what Nick's here for.
That is
No,
what next year.
All
not,
right.
not accurate. I'm here because I tried to watch Chris playing Minecraft. And
Well,
apparently joined the channel.
fuck you.
and
You're
then-
Don't
stuck
pass
with
your
talking
desk
about
door.
tabletops.
I might have some tabletop here.
Awesome. So our table topic for the week is how often should skill check or like mechanics, depending on the system, be required in tabletops? This is a
that's an
topic
easy one.
that I feel like we've kind of talked about, me and Chris at least, on various podcasts to some extent, but we kind of decided to kind of bring this as a full topic, because it really depends on kind of the system and kind of like the scenario going on. Like, is a skill check necessarily, like, do you need a skill check for every little tiny thing? Because like D&D, as far back as original D&D, first edition, 0th edition, whatever, had skill checks for almost everything. And then there are, even systems like Hero System, which is a far more in-depth system than anything D&D has ever done, that really go far into depth of, like, you're doing X command, what is your skill roll? What is your modifier? What kind of thing do you have to overcome? Do you have to overcome for these set circumstances? So we're kind of going to look at that as a general idea. So, Chris, what do you, go ahead.
Here's a take I think Nick is going to agree with me pretty strongly on, and that's as little as possible.
Oh.
And it's only getting down to, or as little as necessary, and it's only getting down to what's necessary is the meat of the question.
And to that, I would add that skill checks, if your system's good, should only be necessary in cases of a abstraction where the player's skill in play cannot satisfy it, or where your player fumbles. So if you're playing a game where you have like a diplomacy skill, you only want to make them roll for that when they, as a player, fuck up their diplomacy.
And
I would be like, oh, you have a perfect argument, roll a diplomacy check. Oh, you rolled a 1, your perfect argument now sucks. That's bullshit. That hurts.
This is feeling pretty fucking resonant right now.
So, Kevin, you seem to have some interesting input on this. What's your general take on this idea after their kind of synopsis of it?
So it's a little bit hard, and this might be more of like the environment that I'm in, and when you're dealing with a little bit of a game set where you have a person that's dealing with a bit more role playing, or they have a different character that they're playing, I've found that when you're playing as a character that is sort of like, okay, I am this investigator who's trying to figure out the plot of this thing, the GM or DM, whatever you want to call them, may sort of like fudge some things or give you opportunities where you're partnering up, and this is me with 5e, D&D, where you're playing with a person, you perhaps give some more role play. I've also played Stars Without Borders, playing a little bit of like live D&D on
Stars Without Number?
Stars Without Numbers, yeah.
You
know what's really funny is that when we played, I would always call it Doctors Without Borders, and that's why I would always give it that name. When we would play, it was mostly role-playing based games, less combat heavy. So I think it depends on like the style of your party and like the game that you're trying to play, where like your GM or DM can be a little bit more forgiving on roles, especially if you're doing it as a group. I think that like working together as like a character that's trying to build like a story and trying to build like a narrative as you're playing through a game, a GM can kind of be a bit more forgiving on roles for things if you're playing with like multiple people that are like sort of trying to make a check. And I think that gives a bit more of like leeway with like, hey, I really want to give this convincing argument, and I'm gonna like preach to you for like a minute or so and chat about like this thing. Maybe they're a bit like the NPC that the DM has created or GM has created is like willing to give a bit more and lets that flow a bit more. I don't know what you guys think.
Sounds like we agree.
Yeah, like you're just trying to advance it a bit, right? Like you're all just trying to have a good time and advance that story.
Nope.
So here's a point of contention. Right. I think is that is you said narrative roleplay, where I tend to think of the games I run and the games Nick tends to run as more emergent narrative,
Yes.
as in there's no particular reset story. There's pre-set up factors, but the game
But
can
by
head
God,
in-
is there a story?
yeah.
I played many very like
That story crawls up your
story-based
ass and
campaigns.
haunts you.
Like you're here, you're doing this narrative, you're working your way through this. The factors that build towards that may be a little bit variable, but like you're not like, hey, we're gonna just like murder people, you know, like you're D&D, like let's go just fight the good fight, you know. Like keep
Murder
going.
hobos unite.
Like,
Yeah, like we're very against murder hobos, but
You can make a story out of a murder hobo group, though.
oh heck yeah,
actually,
barbarians all the way.
murder hobo groups have resulted in some very interesting stories, and it's called when they have consequences for their action. I don't want to
Yes,
get us too
and
off
that's about
topic
the
here,
DM, yeah.
but
I think that's relevant to what I'm saying too, right? Like,
If your DM's good.
if your DM's good and like you disobey all of the like moral implications of of being a humanoid or human creature in this world, like you're gonna lose, right?
Or you're gonna win, but you're gonna have to fucking earn it.
Or you're gonna be very evil. Yeah.
Or I won't go down that particular rabbit hole. Never mind.
Sure.
So,
I set up my
generally,
game
a
so that it
thing that
couldn't be
I
murder
kind of
hobo.
do when I'm
Without
playing
being
a tabletop is that when the GM is kind of describing the situation, what I will do is I will say what I'm going to do, and what I find is different from other players a lot of the time is a lot of players will say, like, I have a roll the dice, DC 32 investigation check, or whatever applicable check happens to be. What do I find? And I'll just be like, I'm going to investigate the sarcophagus. You know,
I flip the table.
I don't.
open the lid.
I don't
Yeah,
roll
like
before I say what I'm going to do. And
I throw the box
what-
across the room. What happens?
Yeah, stuff like that. And what ends up with me a lot of the times is I circumnavigate that check because, you know, in some cases my character is not good at that check. If my character is not good at that check and the DM asks for that check, I will still roll that check and see what hilarity ensues. But what do you guys
That's what
think
makes
about
the game.
just kind of like role-playing as opposed to kind of metagaming, where you're like, I know what check the DM is going to ask for, so I'm going to roll it beforehand. That's not what I do. What I do is I'm like, I'm going to do this. And then, I feel like 80% of the time, if you tell the DM, I'm going to do this, he gives you a result immediately instead of saying roll. And sometimes if it's a hard situation like, oh, I'm going to try and seduce the king, then he'll be like, okay, give me a charisma check, you son of a
How
bitch.
sexy are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Abstraction in situations.
Depending
where
on the
drugs are
situation,
using,
certainly skill checks will still apply, but a lot of the time, I could circumnavigate the skill check just through good roleplay. What do you guys think of that?
100%.
I agree with your method of doing things, and I hate the thing. I don't just actively dislike it. I hate roll this check. I'm like, I'm gonna roll diplomacy at this
terrible.
guy. It's
rude.
it's not that it's rude. It's that it's what are we sitting around the table doing here? We're just rolling numbers at each other.
Yeah.
What is your character actually
So-
doing in the fiction?
What I would
I
add
think
to
it's
that,
fair to ask the DM too, and be like, "Hey, like, I'd like to check out this thing. Is that like an investigation check, or like, am I doing a
Yeah.
perception thing to look at
Yeah,
this? Like,
certainly.
what am I doing here?
I think that's fine. Go. Sorry, Nick.
Yeah, it's great. Sorry, Nick.
So
Yeah,
I
go
think-
ahead.
Oh no, you're good. I think a good way to sum it up is that skill checks are best kind of used as pseudo saving throws, so that when you're investigating
Yeah.
and you screw up, you roll the investigation skill as a saving throw to see, oh, do I spill coffee all over the documents? That sort of thing, as opposed to finding them in the first place.
He's
And spilling
referring
coffee
to
over the documents is
particular
the best
event.
thing. It is the best thing that your character can do because it gives like flavor from the GM. Like if you are this like
If it's
master
coffee flavor
investigator-
and I'm the GM, I'm okay with this because I fucking love coffee.
That actually
Yeah.
happened in our Call of Cthulhu game to our friend Josh. Very memorable moment.
you go to give the greatest speech to mankind and you think it's like Independence Day and then it's like it is just not. Like you go up there babbling about nonsense because your character rolled a 1 and like their int was great but they just really couldn't give a convincing argument.
You know,
They
Kevin,
knew nothing about
But if
mind
you, the
flayers.
player, can give a great speech, then you get to
Of
keep
course.
it.
Yeah.
Unless you stumble, then it's time to roll.
Now that's an interesting kind of almost
Yelling is
side
great.
topic that I feel like you both have kind of accidentally come up with, is that like I feel like when your character rolls that 1 or you know fails the check or whatever, you instantly know it. But like, should your character know that? I feel like that's almost an extra topic we could have, but we might accidentally just like.
It
How do you
depends
feel
on the
about
game.
that? Yeah, like if you roll, you know, just absolute trash, but your character should know that. How do you deal with that?
That's roleplay,
Oh,
baby.
it makes it even better. Like you start going on like so. I've had this happen recently, or not recently, actually, within the past year of playing in a campaign where I am a Dragonborn investigator that should know everything with his monocle of investigation that gives him advantage on.
I want a
things.
monocle of
What he
investigation.
points it at.
Oh my god, it's so great. However,
Why don't I
my
have one of those?
My Dragonborn warlock with terrible stats has awful intelligence, cannot make investigation checks for diddly. He rolls a nat 1 on an investigation, and he is scoping out a party where he knows that a person of interest that he had relationships with in the past, that like not so much. She's not so great.
I don't know. I'm a kinky weirdo. I'll watch whatever.
Whoop, whoop.
Okay.
She was part
Don't
of
say
that
sex.
party and like kind of moved away from that. She's at this event and like you roll a flabbergasting 1 and there's no way that you can recover from this. Giving a great speech in front of this group saying, I am the greatest investigator that ever lived and I'm so awesome and everybody should love me. And then my GM says, you're trying to make a convincing argument to an entire group of people that you don't know. Make a persuasion check.
See, that works.
Duds. Nothing. Awful. Terrible. I make the world's most convincing, not convincing argument about anything. And I start babbling and lisping. But I roll with the GM. I think that's what happens with people that are making like more like RP related campaigns. There are no rules in 5e about role playing and how you should handle situations with things like this. It makes it hard for the GM,
Yep.
and it makes it hard for the PCs. You just kind of figure it out. I babbled and made some terrible argument about this, and my bard saved me.
I mean, you could
You
just
did the
be
Billy-
making
you
a
did the
decent
Billy
argument,
Madison.
it's just it doesn't work.
It doesn't work, yeah.
When your
But
character doesn't realize that, etc.
the terrible thing for me was that like I didn't even realize it because I was so infested with pride. Somebody flipped the lights, somebody cast a spell to like dissuade everybody from like paying attention to me, and they knew that I was babbling because
Look at the
these
keys,
people were
don't look at
like,
him.
"Oh man, the Dragonborn! Like, oh, he's at it again! Like, what an asshole!"
He's just drunk. I'm
He's
sober.
drunk,
Oh,
at this
he's
party,
so
how
drunk.
dare
I'm not
he
as think as
go
you
on this
drunk I am.
podcast for too long. I think the beauty of a D&D game in particular, or any role-playing game, is that those moments are way more memorable for your players and your DM than like sticking by the rules and knowing like, okay, like yeah, you guys like beat these people, yeah, that was great. Like yeah, let's just wrap up for tonight. The
Right.
moments that exist that are really fun in a role-playing game where, folks like us that are creative and thinking about stuff at a table are thinking like, okay, like, I'm playing this character, like, I'm a Dragonborn, like, I have this warlock, backstory, like, maybe I would understand this thing from a history check, or maybe like I don't really know anything about like sea creatures. Like, why are we on a boat? Like, I can't swim that well. I'm a dragonborn. I'm a red dragonborn. I can't swim. Like everybody like else. Like, let the Triton deal with everything. I don't care. That is what I think makes for better skill checks in a game, and that's what makes for better, like, just role playing in general. If you want to do combat, that's great. I love combat. I'm a combat hound in 5e, but the role playing and like dealing with skill checks for the GM, pass it off to the good GM. Let them figure that out.
Good GM can figure anything out.
Gotta play with good GMs. I do.
Well, I think that's the whole thing. If you're not playing with a good GM or a GM who's working on improving, what the hell are you doing? Huh?
Yeah, you're wasting your Friday night, right?
You're settling for less because you are woefully inequipped to get a good GM.
Get good.
And you have my pity.
The trick is teaching the GM. Not everyone is a good one, you know?
And
I've
hoping
GM'd
that they'll be
games
open
before, and I haven't
to
been
criticism.
It's hard too, because I feel like there's a lot of different kinds of good GMs, because you can be a good GM who can't deal with that sort of situation, because you're the kind of GM that just relies on the plot that you have created beforehand that you assume the players will somehow follow, and that to some extent you shoehorn the players into following. But
You railroad them.
yeah, a little
That
bit.
doesn't sound
But
like a good
Yeah,
GM
I
to
wouldn't
me.
count that as a good GM.
well, it's
Good GMs can railroad
it's really
well.
a different kind of GM, because I feel like you can do a good job of it, but sometimes doing a good job of it involves going off of the railroad, you know, like,
Yeah.
because you create the railroad, you assume the players will follow, and then if they don't follow it, you still have to, you know, have content for
You gotta
that.
get them
You
there.
have to figure out how to either get them there or create, you know, content for where they ended up going for whatever silly reason they did, because players very seldom do what you expect them to do.
Yeah.
And that's why I just gave them the tools to build their own goddamn railroad, because I don't know what the fuck they're gonna do. I'm just here to watch.
That's sandbox gaming right there. I created an
I like it.
entire shooting gallery game on the fly for a Zelda D&D 5e campaign.
Nice.
On the fly. For players, because the rogue decided he wanted to go to a fair. And I was like, yeah, the fair's here. Like, what do you want to do? And
I
he's
dig
like,
it.
I like to test my bow skills. And I was like, great, here we go. Get retarded. Do it. And it worked out really well. He got a lower level magical item for it.
Nice.
Nice.
Great.
You didn't get a bigger quiver? Oh.
Surprisingly, no. He was
Oh,
a
yeah.
halfling. He couldn't carry it.
Hey, what are you saying about halflings, Buster?
Saying they're
It would have dragged across the floor for him. He would have given a negative on stealth.
You're saying they're weak.
Oh, that's-
Weak. Nick, you're weak. Boo.
Wait, what am I weak for?
I don't fucking know. Anyways, is there any last minute thoughts we have on this kind of thing, or shall we dive into our video game topic? Or go ahead, Chris.
I have one thing.
Go ahead.
Sorry, this is kind of a big thing.
Mhm.
Set some fucking stakes for your skill checks before you roll them. Because if you're setting stakes for your skill checks before you roll them, then you're not rolling unnecessary skill checks so often. If the stakes are, oh, you fail the roll and you just don't, and it just takes you a bit longer, then that's not really interesting.
You know, like,
Don't just-
as I have kind of described how I roleplay and how I DM, I kind of really relate to this, because, like, I specifically put in my DM notes when I'm preparing a session, like, if they give me a knowledge history check, DC this, or if they give me a whatever check, DC this, then this is the information they glean, this is the, you know, benefit that they gain. And that's kind of how I set up my adventures, is like, okay, these are the necessary skill checks. And then so many times, other than that, like, I'll be like, okay, you run into this monster, and the druid or whatever will be like, oh, I'm a druid, so I know all sorts of stuff about monsters. I roll my skill check before I tell you what I'm doing, you know, and that's kind of where we get that problem. And it's like, I don't necessarily know. I'm not going to say it's rude because I know a lot of players that do this, and I think it's just a way of playing that is not necessarily the way that I play. And I don't want to say that that's rude because every player and every DM plays differently. That's just kind of where I'm going to leave that. And so
you've never played with me as a druid.
That's true. So yeah, next time we get you on, I'm thinking maybe we'll actually do some D&D play. That'll be fucking fun.
Yeah, I kind of want to host a game for you guys.
Let's do it, Nick. All right. We'll figure that out later.
My shit.
Yeah.
There's 5 months of prep, and then you're set.
Oh no, I have all the content on hand right now.
That is not an exaggeration. He has all the content on hand right now.
All right, that's
awesome.
Good. If you go in as a druid,
is good.
You reveal to the DM the creatures that you've seen to be able to wild shape it too.
Yeah, but to an extent, sometimes it's not necessarily the druid. Sometimes it's the bard, the cleric. Or like,
where's the druid
They'll
from?
be like, okay, I'm going to
jungle?
make my knowledge check. Do I know about
The
this
desert.
random kind of monster that happens to be a homebrew monster that you made up specifically for this campaign? You know, weird shit like this just comes up as a DM, and sometimes I'm just like, I didn't expect you to do that, and you made the roll for it, so I guess I'll honor the roll for it. But
if it's a one-of-a-kind monster, then you're like, you've seen a lot of animals before, but you've never seen anything like this. It is.
Yeah.
Sometimes I am, and sometimes I'm like,
DM
sometimes as a DM, I'm just like, I want to make something that I'll use as a recurring like monster or recurring threat, something like that. So it really depends. So that's kind of a hard thing as a DM to just balance in general. But I don't know. It's something that you kind of roll with.
Your class, like,
Yeah.
hey, can I investigate this and figure it out during downtime? Or like, hey, like, I knew all these things. Like, a DM, are you going to throw things at me? Like, I am a ranger. Like, would I know this from like my conclave and understand like? I knew that these, like, 6 creatures resided around XYZ area.
Right.
I might be an overachiever. That might just be me.
Chris leveled up. Congratulations, Chris.
What?
In Minecraft.
Oh.
Anybody else paying attention to what the fuck Chris is doing in Minecraft?
Isn't he just harvesting trees?
I'm like kind of drifting in and out. I'm like 90% of the time I'm on the conversation, and every now and then I'm like, oh hey, Chris is still playing Minecraft.
Oh yeah, speaking of Tabletopic, Chris is working on stuff in Minecraft right now that actually supports our D&D game.
Nice.
There you go.
Oh no!
All right.
My water.
Anyways, is there anything for real last thoughts on this? Go ahead, Nick.
When your DM says that your character can't do something and you're playing a game without skill checks, be sure to throw a bag of marshmallows in his face to prove him wrong.
Oh Jesus! Not this again.
I feel like there's a story behind this, but I want to leave it for another day because it'll.
Let's leave it for the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
Keep people listening.
Right. Okay. So
one last thing.
Any kind of last minute thoughts about should you have lots of skill checks or should you have not so many skill checks? What's our general
Unless they're
consensus?
necessary and to figure out what's necessary, have a real consequence for failure when you ask for a skill check, even if that consequence is you don't know. Or that consequence is you don't have access to that information or you can't get that thing in time.
Have less skill checks.
Fair.
Yeah, well,
Player agency means player fun.
And then is an attack roll a skill check?
It is.
See,
but that's because attacks are abstracted.
Skill check.
If you have a crossbow to the back of someone's head, you do not need to roll an attack roll. They are dead.
Yeah.
Unless they're trying to dodge.
So that's all the points I want to make.
Fun. Let teams do skill checks, and if you F up, then like your team moves on, and you're a little bound for time or whatever the GM says. if they really don't want you to get that really cool item that they homebrewed for you, they'll just put it somewhere else.
Right. All right, so shall we move on to our video game topic for the day? As long as everybody's more or less content on our discussion we had right there.
Sean is sick of this topic.
Not sick of, but I feel like the more we go down the rabbit hole, the longer we will stay down the rabbit hole.
And the more rabbits we become friends with.
That's fair.
So, video game topic for today, is there a correct ratio of mechanical content to story content in a video game? So, something like the last thing that I played with a large story content is The Last of Us Part 2. So I'll just use that as a reference. Is really story heavy, and in the mechanical aspects of it are certainly present. It's certainly a large part of the game, but I would lean towards it being a more story-centric game. So is there a amount of story-centric versus mechanic-centric that we prefer, or is it just all kind of there? Does it depend on the game? So let's throw it at our guest this week. Kevin, what do you think?
It depends on the game. So from the what we're playing segment we said before, I'm playing Pillars of Eternity 2. That game is mostly built on the story. You're trying to find your way through a land. You're trying to discover like new things and develop new quests. I think in a game like that versus a game like, let's say, Diablo 3, another game that I played, the story doesn't matter at this point.
Right.
I've been playing the game for 10 years. You wind your way through, you just beat up demons, you beat the season. I think it depends on the game.
It's kind of funny that you should mention Diablo 3, because having played Diablo 2 for a long time, when I played Diablo 3, I felt like that. I felt like story doesn't matter. It's just Diablo. It
doesn't matter at all.
Right? It's just blow up a bunch of demons and grind loot, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, that was the whole MO of the game.
Yeah. Not that Diablo 3 was like a bad game, but like that was the point of it.
Yeah, just like, run around, romp around with demons and find your way through.
I'm just seeing Doom. All I'm seeing is Doom.
I love Doom too.
Which has a great story.
Every Doom.
Yeah.
Like there's a surprising amount of story, especially in Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, that you can just kind of piece together like through like what's going on. And even to a lesser extent, Doom 3 had a large amount of lore. Like if you read like every PDA entry, there was a lot of lore you could gain in Doom 3. Just like this random guy was like checking in an entry of, oh, hey, we accidentally received a shipment of 70 chainsaws. What do we do with these?
Yeah, I remember that one.
And all sorts of weird junk like
all the way
this.
from Earth. We don't even have trees.
Right, yeah. Just all sort of junk like that. And it was like every little PDA entry added to the lore so much, which is one of the things I really loved about Doom 3, which is why Doom 3 is still my favorite Doom game. But yeah, it's like...
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard, right? Like, it depends on the kind of game that you're playing,
yeah.
really. Like,
because lately I've been replaying Halo, like I said. Actually, that's something I don't... I think I kind of skipped that in Whatcha Playin, but I have recently, because everything's been back on PC now, almost, I've beaten Halo 3 and Halo Reach in the past couple of weeks.
Nice.
So I've beaten every Halo game now that's on the Master Chief Collection on PC. And that's been a ton of fun. But, like, the first Halo 1... and to a lesser extent Halo 2 were really story-centric, and Halo Reach was kind of sort of story-centric. It's like, okay, it's there, it's definitely a cool thing, but I feel like Halo 2 and Halo 3 are almost mechanic-dependent. Like, without the great shooter aspect of gameplay, those games are fucking nothing. Halo 2 and 3 specifically. After replaying them, I'm like, the stories in Halo 2 and 3 are... Like, the story in Halo 2 is so-so, it's fine, but the story in Halo 3 is just like, look, Gravemind! Here, let's shove it in your face! This is Gravemind, get it?
I don't want that in my
It's a
face.
hive
Get
mind
outta
and
here.
stuff. And you're just
No.
like, I don't care. But then at the same time, you get like this, like Halo 3 ends on this super climactic, like, oh my god, everything is blowing up, escape in a Warthog, get to the spaceship, you know, and it's like, oh my god, this is fucking cool, you know, mechanically. It's just like so good.
Like
I
Halo 1.
love Halo 3 mechanically so much more than Halo 2, even though Halo 2 is like a weird thing where it's like,
Halo 2 is the
it's
black sheep.
okay mechanically and it's okay story-wise, but it's not great at either. But like Halo 1 is so good story-wise, and at the time it was really good mechanically. And in retrospect, it's
Yeah.
like, it's okay mechanically. It's not bad mechanically. But in retrospect, Halo 3 is like really good mechanically. And the story, who even cares? Who even knows? Like, I just played through it, and I could not give you a synopsis other than Gravemind. That is the only synopsis I can give you. I have no idea what was going on half the time, but it was fun as hell.
They find the Ark on Earth,
Right, yeah. Because,
which leads to the Forerunner's plan to activate all Halos. Which
That
there are
was the
multiple
Halo
of,
3,
7 of them.
though.
yeah.
Too.
You're talking to a Halo fanatic at this point, too, which is pretty great that you had me on this show, and you brought up Halo.
Yay!
Sticks for me.
Halo!
Glad there are people on here that can talk
Um,
knowledgeably about Halo.
Master Chief
Right.
manages to team up with the Flood in that, too.
Yeah,
on
briefly
the
in
level
Halo
of the
3.
Covenant.
Yeah.
Very briefly in Halo 3, and then manages to just bam with them and then defeat the Gravemind and the Flood entirely.
Yeah, that was a kind of a
Team up the
cool
Arbiter.
mechanic
It was a
slash...
little weird that he just beats them.
Yeah, it was... That's kind of where I'm going, whereas, like,
on.
it's a cool story thing for a second, and then it's just, like, it doesn't even matter in the grand scheme of things. It's just, like,
It
after...
matters for Halo 4.
I didn't play much Halo 4, so I'm looking
Halo 4, they're
forward
just
to
not there.
replaying it once it comes to Master Chief Collection later this year, but it's not there yet, so when it comes out, I feel like we should revisit this conversation.
Heck yeah, we should.
Yeah.
Halo 3, I will say, wraps it up pretty well.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing, though, is, like, I didn't really like... I really kind of... Actually, when Halo 2 came out, I'm going to say I hated the end of Halo 2 when it came out. I was
it's
just
not
like...
a good ending.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
like...
It's not good.
It should have had one more level and wrapped up everything, is how Halo
and you
2
end it
should
with
have
the
ended.
Arbiter of all people.
Yeah, it was like... That was so lame.
It's-
It was
If
it
you
was so
watch,
hilarious.
like,
Actually,
they
I
didn't
played
want
the
to end it
entire
that way.
Halo 2 campaign on co-op with my brother Tim. And after that last Arbiter level, I joked with him. Like, we beat the level, and I said jokingly,
Next.
after the end credits, or after the end cutscene ended, I was like, and the credits! And both of us laughed our asses off. And then the credits literally actually rolled, and we were like, what the
Yeah.
fuck?
Fucking what, mate?
We were so pissed! It was like, what
Halo
the
2 was
fuck?
rushed beyond
Yeah, it
belief.
was just like, I feel
Halo
like,
2 was just like, it
Yeah.
was like Xbox
What?
Live,
You
you
take
built
for-
that,
Yeah.
and Halo 2, just put it out there.
right, and Halo 3, I feel like, didn't really wrap it up well, but it, like, it fixed it enough that I was just like okay with it. And then Halo 4 came out, and I was just like,
It undid
I have a
Halo
kid
3.
now. I don't have any time to play multiplayer games, and I'm not that interested. So I barely played Halo 4, and I don't have an Xbox One, so I didn't play Halo 5. Is basically how
Well-
my Halo run is going. So
Infinite is free to play, so you're in.
yeah, that's kind of how I'm going. I'm just like, dude, when Halo Infinite comes out, I'm probably gonna subscribe to Game Pass just to at least play Halo Infinite and just call it good. Just see how it goes. Like, I can beat Halo Infinite in a month, you know, even if I just spend my free trial on that, or even if I have to pay for a month for that, I'll still be happy. Right?
5 is a good time story-wise. I think it's worth it.
Yeah. So kind of to shoehorn us back towards the topic here, is any of this necessarily correct? Is a game better for focusing on story rather than gameplay, or is it better for focusing on gameplay rather than story?
That is so a matter of personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't even know where to start with that. I mean, I know what I prefer, but it's like, all opinions are valid there.
I think the only... so to answer, to be a real douchebag and answer the question on its face...
How dare you.
Which is there a correct ratio of mechanics to story content? No. And then to give that some extra depth, because I can't leave it there, obviously.
Right.
I mean, you could, but you'd be a douchebag.
Yeah, it would be super...
Wouldn't change anything, but,
I think the only time I've gone out of my way to play a game, the only times I've played games for, like, their story would be, say, like, Undertale.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Undertale.
I'm not really including, like, visual novels in that, because although they have game elements, I feel like they're usually better served by just watching them on YouTube.
accurate.
I don't know. I would have a little bit of an argument with that, because I've only played one real visual novel game, which is Valhalla, which is a real kind of a personal experience, which is weird because there's so little riding on the gameplay, except if you do particular gameplay things in particular instances, you will unlock alternate cutscenes or alternate endings.
And that
So
what you described there is basically...
don't even know what the differences are, but at the same time, I feel like watching it on YouTube would not have had the same effect as playing it. Like, because when you're playing game, I feel like that almost is in and of itself just a way to enhance the experience. You are the person that is doing these actions, not just you're watching these actions unfold. You are the person.
What you're illuminating for me there is kind of the reason I go back to play BioWare games.
Oh, yeah.
And
What are we talking here? Which BioWare? Are we talking, like...
like Baldur's... Like the first two Baldur's Gates.
Oh, okay, cool.
And it's just being able... particularly Baldur's Gate 2. Since I guess that had much more emphasis on character and was much less of, like, hex scroll. I like Baldur's Gate 1 a lot.
That's an interesting case, because actually the only BioWare game I've actually played is Knights of the Old Republic. And I played it originally on original Xbox, and I fucking loved it, and I loved going through it. And when they re-released it on mobile, I wanted to go through it again, but the mobile interface was so bad that I just didn't even, like, get past the first planet. I was just like...
Did you play it with a controller?
No, I played it on the actual touchscreen interface. So that was maybe...
Bluetooth controller makes it better on the Android.
Okay, yeah, because that's one of the things that I kind of thought about that I should, like, try. But I basically, like, they said, hey, Knights of the Old Republic is free on mobile. And I was like, okay, yes, I love this game. I want it for free, because I played it on Xbox, and I was so in love with it. It was such a great game. And then I played it with mobile, so maybe this is almost kind of a point to our topic, though, that the mechanics on mobile really killed it versus the mechanics on a quote-unquote real console really made it work a lot better. Because with the touchscreen interface and the weird touchscreen controls and the pseudo-controller touchscreen interface, it was just a weird experience. It wasn't very fun, even though I was doing literally the same thing. It was a lesser experience on mobile than it was on the original Xbox. I would rather
That's why it was
buy
free.
an original Xbox than I would play this game on mobile.
It was a lot better on original Xbox too.
Mm.
That's a weird game too, because to like lead to the point here too. Like that was KOTOR is a very story-based game. KOTOR 2. I've played KOTOR and KOTOR 2 combined between those two games over 50 times. It's disgusting. It's a very story-based game.
That is disgusting. I've never played.
I played it over everything, over console, over mobile, and over PC. PC is the best way to play it.
Okay.
And that goes down to the control. It really does go down to control. If you're playing it over the mobile version, there are some things that just don't work. It just doesn't work that well. And the combat in it is very easy. It's very simple.
Yeah, it wasn't like overwhelming
work on
combat,
mobile.
because I remember it was actually right when I was learning 3rd edition D&D that I was learning how to play Knights of the Old Republic, and it's literally Star Wars D20 version.
Yes.
In a video game.
Great.
And I was like, this is really cool. It kind of almost helped me learn both games by playing the other version, for the tabletop versus the actual video game. And I thought that was a really cool kind of a thing. But then replaying it on mobile, the interface was weird, and it didn't work well. Yeah, like you're saying. And I'm just like, I thought about putting in a controller, but I was like, I feel like
even
putting a controller into a mobile game on your phone is too much work.
Yeah. You might as well just play
unless it's like literally going to be a brand new game. Like if they released like the new Zelda game or something and said, "Hey, this is available on mobile, but you have to connect a Bluetooth
What a fucking
controller."
betrayal that would be.
Right.
on your iPhone.
Oh my.
Right. Yeah.
God.
But some or whatever it is, Halo or Zelda or The Last of Us. If they said the newest version of this is available only on your phone and you have to connect a controller, I would be like, oh fucking K.
Yeah,
that is
okay.
great.
Companies like,
That
hey,
would
we
work.
enjoy cutting our dick off. Like, it's such a dumb.
I don't know. It's kind of a weird double-edged sword too, because I feel like
Only
mobile
needs one edge,
games
cut your
these
dick off.
days are like the mobile technology we have is so far beyond the other, the console technology we had last generation, right? My phone has a fucking octa-core processor. My phone has like 8 gigs of RAM. My phone is like last gen's PC on fucking crack. Why can't I have a goddamn good game on it? Why do all the games
tiny,
like?
and
Why is the
interface
best
tiny.
game Angry Birds? Why is that the best game on my fucking phone?
Because it was accessible.
It's because
Easy
you
to
didn't
pick up.
plug in a controller to play KOTOR on it.
Exactly.
Okay,
That's accessibility.
that
in
is
a
a fair
nutshell.
argument. But I'm just like, why doesn't anybody utilize this technology, right? Like, my phone
The money ain't
is
there.
almost comparable to a Nintendo Switch. Almost. Right? Like, it beats it out on the RAM, it beats it out on the CPU, it doesn't beat it out on this and this. Like, it goes neck and neck with a
Whoa.
goddamn Switch.
Whoa.
And my phone is
Wait.
2 years
The
outdated.
real question is, why can't I make calls with my Switch?
Right.
Too big to hold up to your ear. That's why.
Why can't I text with my Switch? Why can't I do all these other things with my goddamn Switch?
We got
Hey,
off
Grandma,
topic again.
Sorry, I can't really hear you that well.
Tell her I say hi.
This left Joy-Con has a little too much drift. I can't really hear you.
And we get to the root of the issue. Some platforms are designed for games first, and others are not. The ones designed for games first will always be superior to the ones that aren't.
Right, but I feel like that should be up to the
PC.
developers. If the developers
PC is good
developed
at everything.
a game that was specifically for mobile, that was
Fair point,
supposed
Chris.
to compete with console/mobile gaming devices, i.e. Switch, why couldn't they make it? Why can they not
For the
make
same
a
reasons,
game
mobile
that is
games
as
wanna make
good
money.
on Switch as it is good on the average mobile phone?
Your market for mobile phones is way larger, and the people that are playing games on there don't care for the quality.
That's true. I guess I'm the weird guy that I'm just like, if you release a good game, I'll pay $60 for it on my phone. Like, I guess most people don't do that.
You're very in the minority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're one of the few, the proud.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but that is definitely
Dork
a
power.
rare sentiment. I've
Dork
never
power.
heard that.
People will not do that, and I think the some of the built-in for like the average folks that grew up with phones through maybe like 2010 through now,
Right.
like spending $1 for an app on your phone is like, I'm not gonna do that. Like, apps are free.
Right.
I'm not gonna spend $1 on something like. There's no way. Whereas there are people that have been like tuned into that are like, I can get this app for free, but like I'm gonna play Clash of Clans
Right.
and dump like $10 into that. Like it's nothing.
Yeah, that's a
Clash of
weird thing
Clans,
to me as
I
a
don't think it's
gamer,
very
because, like, I
popular.
played, not Clash of Clans, but they had another game, the same developer had another game that was like, it was almost an RTS mixed with a card game. I'm trying to
Okay.
remember what it was called, but it's like, you draw your cards,
Sounds like a
basically,
money spender.
and basically, depending on what cards you draw, you can cast that card, and it will generate so many units in basically a real-time strategy game, where you're on 1v1 real-time strategy, and so you're like, okay, I get this card, and it summons like 10 little guys, or it summons one big guy, depending on what card it is. And I played that game for a little while until I got to the tier where I could clearly tell that the only people that were beating me were people that were paying money for it.
Big spenders.
Yeah, I was like, you're not beating me
The
because you have
whales.
good strategy. You're beating me because you have better cards.
That's why I never play free to play.
Yeah, that was also my problem with the World of Warcraft one. Whatever it's
Wait,
called.
what?
It's not World of Warcraft. It's
Hearthstone.
Okay.
Hearthstone, yeah. Where
Oh,
it's
okay.
Blizzard
Blizzard.
developed. Yeah, that's what I meant.
It's
So
like, World of Warcraft
CC
isn't pay to win.
CCG.
yeah. So
It's paid to
it's
look
like
good.
I played Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh and the Pokemon trading card game and this and that for years and years and years. So I know how trading card game strategy works. I know how to make a
But you
decent
played,
deck.
You played paper.
I
Wait,
know how to do
isn't
this.
Magic pay to win too, though?
Yes.
Yes.
Sure it is, yeah, but like you play
the
like
same.
so like in an EDH commander format, you kind of build around like the spec of your play group.
Yeah, and it's
I hated
almost
that
a
game
different
since they
style of pay to win because in Magic, like you can buy a bunch of old cards and they'll still be okay, or you can buy a bunch of new cards and they'll be differently okay, right? They'll both
I
be
have a hot take.
ridiculously
Printer
broken.
with, like,
It's
no
so
ink.
funny.
Chris gets to speak. He hasn't spoken in a while.
Chris, talk.
My hot take here is maybe some pay-to-win games are actually, fun and enjoyable and maybe even good. Because we're talking about Magic and
Right. I mean, I would call Hearthstone
beauty,
good if it
though-
wasn't that I got to a point where I was just like, I'm going online with random people and they have better cards than me. And they are literal, like I can, as a person who has played Magic in this for so long, I can tell that they are playing stupidly. But they're still beating me because they have better cards.
yeah.
It's
I think
so
just to
weird.
hop on the Magic train,
Mhm.
real quick with the Magic train here is the beauty of playing Magic, which is a game that is like at this point what over 30 years old.
Close. I think it was 1991.
93.
93? Yeah.
Yeah.
93?
So it's-
okay, so close
it's
to
getting on.
close to 3 decades at this point.
Yeah.
I think the beauty of Magic is that a lot of players, like myself, have gotten to the game playing different formats of the game. And the beauty of that is you don't, like, getting to the argument of, like, is it a pay-to-win game? Sure. If you want to play in the standard format.
Right.
It's pay to maybe win.
Pay to maybe
But
win,
you don't
even for
pay, you're not
standard,
gonna
yeah.
win
Like,
at
if you
all.
don't build the right deck and you don't get a 4 of for this,
Yeah.
If you don't drop like $600 on a deck, like
Right.
you're
And
not gonna
and I
win
remember a
at tournament.
time when Jund was called the pay to win kind of deck, but it was
Not anymore. It's all Simic, baby.
right, yeah, but it was at the same time like if you paid
History repeats.
for the best Jund deck and you didn't play it right, you would still lose. So that's
Yes,
what
you
I
could,
would
yeah.
call good game design, because I, with my, like, literally at that point, I had bought a $20 deck. I paid $20 for all the cards in my deck and just stacked with basic
And you
land that I had.
piloted it well.
And I would, you know, if you didn't know how to play your deck with the Jund, I would win.
Yeah.
Because if you knew how to play it, and you played it right, and you got all the right draws, you would kick my ass all over the place, because I had a cheap deck. But I had a cheap deck, and I knew how to play, so literally, depending on who you were, if you paid $500, I beat $500, $600 decks constantly, and then I would lose to another, you know, $100 to $200 deck, because I didn't have the best cards, but I knew how to play better. Which is a kind of a weird thing that I've always kind of had in these trading cards games, where I understand the strategy, I understand the metagame, I understand the deck building and all this, but I
You're
don't want to
land-based,
pay more than
but-
$40 a deck. Like, I think the most expensive
what
deck
about the
I've
story
ever
in
built
Magic the Gathering?
is $40, $50.
How much
story-
story should be there to balance the mechanics?
Oh boy, the story has been like ripped apart by the fans for like the past couple books. Oh my god, Magic fans just took a hot dump on the story since War of the Spark.
I've never listened to a single story moment in the 15 years I've played Magic.
That's
Not once.
Is that illuminating?
The story is good. There's a lot of storied characters.
It
too.
is, it's funny,
you
like,
look at all
I-
the legendary creatures, they're great.
Right? I talk to people and they're like, oh, did you hear about this planeswalker? Betrayed that
talked
planeswalker
to
and this
Dan.
and this and this. A lot of it was Dan.
Like who's Gideon Jura?
Right, and I'm just like, so the slivers fucked everybody? How?
They had a more powerful land base.
That's how it usually works out.
Right.
They had a better deck.
All right, is there any actual last minute conversation on the actual video game topic that we started
I
on?
was
Which
just trying to lead it back.
we have rabbit holed around a lot.
We're not
So,
even on the tabletop game
re-
or a video
Anyway,
game.
card games.
if you'll remember, the video game topic was, is there a correct ratio of mechanic to story content?
No.
Probably not.
Depends on the genre.
Yeah, it really
Depends
does,
on your,
because
like,
I feel
taste,
like
man.
different games do better differently, because like I said, obviously Halo has gone hit and miss, and Halo for me is better when it's focusing on like the level design and the gameplay and stuff, like Halo 1 and 3 specifically, Halo Reach, as opposed to Halo 2, where it was more trying for the story content, and it felt like it was trying too much for the story content. And then Halo 2, it also, like, the level design was just not there compared to the other games in the series, I feel like. But again, there's like that kind of back and forth. Like I've said, The Last of Us Part 2 I've been playing recently is really heavy on the story content, and also has pretty good gameplay that's very engaging, that's, you know, not necessarily what you expect at any point. So I don't think there's a better or worse of it, but I think different games go different ways, and it works out for them. What do you guys think? Is that just a okay synopsis of what we've been saying?
I do have two things I want to say just to be the douchebag.
Is one of them penis?
I can add a third thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There's nothing wrong with the twofer.
Alright, thing 3, penis. Thing 1, I think the story versus mechanics balance is excellent in a game called Factorio.
Mm-hmm.
There's no story, really.
Beautiful.
You're
Okay.
just there. You
You're just
create
there.
infinite engines.
You're doing a thing. The story is you're here and you don't want to be here anymore. That's literally it.
Sounds like Minecraft.
Yeah, I'm on Minecraft, right? Oh, I'm getting leather sold to me on Minecraft. That's cool. Look at all
Yeah,
that.
there you go. Happy.
There's my
Christmas.
story. That's all the story
What's
I
the
need.
other dichotomy?
Thing number 2, on a more serious note, I think my favorite storytelling experience has been the system that Dark Souls uses, which is it's just the story's there. Do you archaeologist to find it? It's emergent. It's there, but it's not in your face. It's only there if you're paying attention.
And I
like
actually
that
think we had a conversation about that. Was that last episode? About environmental storytelling?
Ambient storytelling.
Maybe. I've kind of been
Being
thinking
alive.
about doing something like that, like storytelling, because particularly we kind of talked about it a little last week, but I don't think it was our topic. Because again, last week was the week I beat Last of Us 2, and I was talking about how story content and I was kind of talking about how a story-based game is different from a character-based game, but the two are intertwined. They have to relate back to one another. But Last of Us 2 is a character-based game, not a story-based game. So I think that's a topic we could revisit another time as well.
Right.
Okay. I'm sure I could rebuttal against that, but I'll save that for another episode.
Yeah, that'll be a ton
You
of
see,
fun.
he doesn't want to hear the rebuttal. That's why he said we'll save it for another time.
Right.
I'll talk about Banner Saga for 3 hours next episode.
Perfect.
Oh God.
I am that guy.
I guess another game that we could kind of talk about that actually Kevin and I and Skip were talking about earlier on Discord was The Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes. Is
One with the sexy.
absolutely 0% story based.
There's almost none.
Yeah.
What? There's totally story in that game.
There
I
is
looked it up.
there is an opening
Never
cutscene.
played it.
There is an ending
About
cutscene,
Princess Styla.
and neither of them matter.
No.
But
The game is good
Sorceress
just
had her
because the
soul
gameplay.
split in two, and there was a thing with mending the
Hyrule
timelines together.
Warriors?
There's
Right.
some
That's what I'm talking about.
That's what you're talking about.
Whoops.
What you meant to say was Princess Styla was had a curse placed on her by Lady Maud, and you go through the Drablands to fight against her pets and other bosses in order to banish that curse and meet up with Sir Colmsley at the end of the game, meet up
Sir
with
Colmsley.
the king of Hytopia, and save Princess Styla from this dreaded curse, gaining you the cursed tights, and achieving that great totem of Sir Colmsley holding you up in front of the town of Hytopia, and proving your worth as a true champion of style, grace, fashion, hoo-ha, the rest. Zelda.
Basically, it's an
Yeah,
excuse
cool
to
fuck.
put on the Goron garb.
The Goron garb is great.
That is the
it gets
best
you through
one.
so many of the levels. You can swim in lava. It's great.
Like, who doesn't want to swim in lava?
It's awesome.
Crow, if you're listening right now, I can swim in lava. It's funny. I like
Man,
Kevin
what a
Crow
game.
on as a podcast guest, but he hates this game, and now I'm so excited to have somebody who likes it.
It is so good, but man, oh man, there's next to nil story.
Yeah.
And I think that's what does it favors.
Yeah, but it's at the same time I don't play Zelda games for story. I play them for gameplay, 100% of the time.
Okay.
And that's why I love
Yep.
Triforce Heroes so much, is that it's a 100% story or not story focused. It's a 100% gameplay focused game. Whether you're playing co-op or single player or whatever. And
The single player is like
the single
it's a
player
slog.
has its issues. I'm not a
Honestly,
big fan of it, but it
the
was
story in Zelda. Sorry, the story in Zelda is kind of treated as like a reward. It's not a game where the story is the point, but the story is a reward.
yeah,
Cherry on top.
that's kind of
Depends
the
on the
thing.
game.
And as a general rule, as a Legend of Zelda fan, as The Legend of Zelda is my favorite video game series of all time,
Chill.
I don't think any Zelda game has a great story. I think most of them have good stories, but I don't think there's one that has a fucking amazeballs story, right?
Fans of Skyward Sword or Ocarina of Time may disagree.
My favorite game of all time is Ocarina of Time, and I think that one has a great story, but I would not go as far as to say that it is one of the best story-based games of all time. I don't think that game relies on its story. I think that game would be just as good without the story.
Yeah.
Because of the dungeon design and the puzzle design and all that goes, and the exploration. That is what, personally, I play a Zelda game for. And not to say that the story is bad. I like the story. I really, really like the story of Ocarina of Time. But it's not why I play it.
Sure. Skyward Sword fans may disagree.
Skyward Sword, I think, has an overrated story. Like, its story isn't bad, but I feel like everybody's like, oh my god, the story is, like, the best story in gaming. I'm like, no.
Read a book.
It's really hard. With Zelda, I feel like you could dive into it for hours on end, but
yeah.
I think the beauty of it is, and I'll say this, there is no bad Zelda game.
Zelda 2.
I love Zelda 2.
Yeah!
I love that game.
Nick also
Zelda 2
shares
is a
my
good
weird.
time.
Alright,
Yeah, Zelda
I'm
2
in the
got
majority.
How did I
Speed
end up
points
the
on
only
what
guy
you want.
on a podcast that
You
I
know.
host that I'm the only guy that doesn't like Zelda 2?
Zelda 2, I will say, is a fun romp because I'm a big fan of Castlevania.
Okay.
And when you play
I like Castlevania, and I like Metroid and Metroidvania type games.
Not a Metroid guy,
But
yeah.
I don't like Zelda 2 at all.
Why?
Is it just like the exploration or the difficulty or the departure from... It's not a Zelda game. It's farther from
It's
the Zelda game than
adjacent to
Triforce
the
Zero.
difficulty because I've had this conversation with Chris several times because I
It's
know
odd.
Chris really likes it. Because it's not that I don't like difficult games, it's that I don't like games that are difficult because of arbitrary decisions to make the enemies more powerful than you. Because literally,
weird level
when
up
you go,
system?
the level up system really doesn't help. Because first of all, the level up system doesn't matter. Like, you can get to max level, and it's like you're like 80% more powerful than you started. You're not that much better.
Yeah,
Right?
it doesn't scale very well.
Yeah, that's one of its kind of
I'm
issues.
so baffled by the words you're saying.
And
Zelda 2, when you end up at the end, you're very ill-equipped to deal with Thunderbird.
yeah,
But it was fine.
but also I feel like
Not if you didn't...
when
not if
you
you
go
didn't
into the
invest in that.
first dungeon, you meet a Stalfos, is one of the first few enemies in the first palace, right? And the Stalfos, just like Link, has the upward stab and the downward stab. That's its two
Yes.
primary attacks. But the difference between Link and a Stalfos is Link has to have his shield upward if he is upward stabbing, and downward if he is downward stabbing. And the Stalfos can have his shield and sword in reverse order or in the same order. Meaning that immediately, the very first enemy that you find in the very first dungeon is the same as you, but better, objectively. And that
You would
just
hate
as a
our friend Matt's
as a
D&D.
core concept bothers me that it's arbitrarily more powerful than you. And I've got fairly far into that game on some of the playthroughs I did back on my GameCube version. Is the furthest I've ever got is like the 6th dungeon or something, where I just got there by grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding. I got to the 6th dungeon, and I was just like, I was just fucking done. I was just fucking over how more powerful the enemies were with you than anything. I was just like, why do the enemies have to be this much more powerful than you? Why do they have to be better than you, because the next like enemies that you find are the
better.
Gorias,
You're
where they're
human,
like
you can learn, they
the
can't
Gorias
learn.
have the same attacks as you, except they have ranged versions of them
They got
because
a
they have a
ranged version.
boomerang. And then you get to the axe throwing guys that are the same as
Okay,
you,
the axe-throwing
but the
guys
axe
are
throwing
okay.
guys have a version of the same attack as you, but it's ranged,
The
and you can't
divers, yeah.
goddamn block it. Every enemy that you fight sequentially is better than
The axe
you
throwing ones
for
were the only
no
ones that were,
reason.
like,
And it's
Now, I will say the first.
I
enemies
feel
you
like it's
fight
just
in the first temple are
not
crazy.
justified as to why I'm grinding to beat these guys. I don't
Actually,
feel...
wait, no, the axe ones you could defeat in a like fashion that wasn't just face tank them. You just had to
Yeah,
hop
you
over
can
their
dodge
stupid
around
axes.
like-
But
Hammer
after,
throws.
like, the
Fine.
first or second temple, I feel like it became more beneficial to just jump through them, take half of your health of damage, as
a
opposed
hit
to
and run.
actually fight them. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is actually the point where I actually argued to Chris, where it is objectively a better idea to run through them, take several hits, and get past them than it is to actually fight them. And Chris agreed with me.
But what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
There's some differences. So without
God.
getting too
Oh,
far
God.
into Zelda 2, is the problems that you run into with the game is the experience meter and how you. I've speedrun Zelda 2, and the issues that you run into are dealing with random drops for enemies, where you end up getting a magic jar when you really don't need one, where you're really begging for an experience bag to get extra experience to deal with, like, not even to deal with, to get enough experience to level you up, but level you up to a point where you're not leveling up so much that you're like, okay, like I leveled up and I'm going to spend some experience on getting a health boost, and then get to the final area where you level up your highest value that you can get to with an experience boost from beating a dungeon. So if you beat a dungeon with 50 experience points and the next value is 200 and that's the highest thing that you can get, that's great. You level up your sword, you have enough damage, you can deal enough damage to enemies. But if you got to that same area and you only had 10 experience points, you get to that lower bracket, which is 50, so you level up your magic or whatever else the equivalent is. But you miss out on that net gain of 150 experience points. Now, pair that with getting to what we were saying with level 6 later on in the game, and you need to get 9,000 experience points, not over 9,000, God forbid.
Over 9,000!
There's no way it could be right. Oh, the scatter's upside down. You're trying to get to 9,000, but the only thing that you have before that is like 1,000. You're talking of a net difference of 8,000 experience points, which grinding in the overworld is ridiculous and a ludicrous amount of time that you would deal with in the game. That is what makes Zelda 2 so unbalanced. And fighting enemies where you end up with a magic jar instead of the experience points that you really needed to get further in the game is a huge blow to someone that's trying to get through the game quickly, efficiently, and not having to grind through a dungeon. It just doesn't add up, literally, mathematically. I don't want to get too far into Zelda 2, but the experience is the real problem with it.
Alright, so since we've accidentally gone off on 3 or 4 different tangents, shall we go to our last segment of the podcast here?
Let's do it.
So our last segment of the podcast is we kind of shill our various wares and things. So let's kind of talk ourselves up, and then we talk until we are like at a ridiculously awkward impasse, and then I cut off the podcast, and it's hilarious. So my name, as always, is Sean Michael Patrick Thompson. Thank you for joining us on Drink to the Past. You can find me on twoguysPlayingZelda.com. I do various articles there. You can find my next article is going to come out fairly shortly, which will be a kind of a wrap-up piece on my thoughts on The Last of Us Part 2, and hopefully it'll turn some heads. I feel like it's going to make people either angry or they're going to be like, okay, which I feel like is most opinions on The Last of Us Part 2. So check that out coming up on Two Guys Playing Zelda Gaming. And of course, as always, I got my Chris co-host here.
Hi, Chris.
My co-host
Hey there.
Chris here.
I'm Chris, Terrified Screeching Audette. You can find some of my writings on Dresser RPG under 5 Cataclysms. I wrote House of Flowers, which is an adventure for that system that's also broadly compatible with most versions of D&D. And Nick and I co-wrote the 5 Cataclysms Core Rules Beta Edition, still in progress and testing, but we've got a lot of things we like. I particularly like his town development rules. I think that's something you don't see in a lot of tabletop
Wait, that's
games.
in there?
The town development rules.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in there.
Oh, shit! I was just thinking about cleaning that up and publishing it separately for money.
Well, it's in there.
Yeah, so
Cool,
check
I
them out
guess
on
people
Drive
who
Through
find it good
RPG.
for free.
Forgot it was in there.
Definitely. And of course, we got our brand new guest, Kevin O'Rourke, who we've had a great time talking with you. So I hope you come back.
I'd
Hi,
love
Kevin.
to, yeah. Definitely follow me on, I don't have too much to shill here, but follow me on Twitter at Shabazzle. Or follow me on Instagram at ShabazzleKev, I think it is. I'm hoping to launch a separate Discord server soon and do a little bit more live streaming, twitch.tv/Shabazzle. But other than that, boom, you'll see me on this show and we'll talk about Zelda.
Yeah, sounds like a good time. And yeah, next time we have you on, maybe we'll actually do some role-playing game or something. We'll actually have a session of something.
That'd be great.
That'll be totally fun.
Oh, I would
Love that
love
so
to
much.
host
Yeah.
something.
Yeah,
for
so
you.
Nick,
I'd
you
love
have
to do some kind
you have
of
something prepared.
Narrative-driven folkies.
Yeah,
Just want to see how you challenge my sensibilities.
narrative-driven is a relative term with you, 0th edition
Oh, it
junkies,
fucking
isn't it?
Perhaps we'll do a
I
little
give
bit
you
of
reasons.
role-playing and play a little bit of a Sean Connery type character. Bit of a
Oh,
Bruce
you can
Rogue,
do that,
perhaps,
but what's Sean Connery going to sound like when there's a crossbow bolt sticking out of his throat?
Right through the throat.
And that's
I'm
why I
gonna
realized
throw
the
my
other day
neck.
that half of my players have
Would you like to see my magical stuff?
Oh wait, I rolled a 20. We're fine.
We're fine.
Some of you are fine.
All right.
Oh, some, yeah.
And now comes the last part of the podcast where we just kind of keep talking about random
Whoa,
bullshit.
I have to shill something.
I thought you did with
Yeah.
Chris, so yeah, go ahead.
No, I
No.
didn't.
Go ahead if you would
Sure,
like to
anything.
show your own shit.
All right.
We
So
are a
recently,
reasonably unprofessional
Wish I could
podcast.
provide a.
I'm gonna drink this
but
vodka.
10footpole.org did a review of one of the modules I wrote.
Anybody
It was
else wanna
called
drink?
Tomb of the Frostwalker. It wasn't
Glug,
the
glug, glug, glug.
module isn't that
Glug,
good,
glug,
but they
glug,
still loved it.
I think it's not
The
that
point-
the module isn't good, it's that most modules are bad.
I wasn't listening. I was feeding Kevin vodka.
Jesus Christ! All right, the point I'm trying to make
is
is
funny,
that
'cause
that
he's in the
module's
wrong
not that
state.
good, and yet it's still rated good because it's me. If you want an actual good thing, get Descent into Madness First Steps. It's available on Drive-Thru RPG. It's like $5, mow a lawn or something. It's great. Or just pirate it. I'm sure
Or
it's
just
out there
pirate
somewhere.
it. In fact, there's like a Trove website you can pirate it off of now.
Pirate
Nice.
a lawn now?
I can be pirated. That's
Yeah.
Hold on,
cool,
let me
actually.
Google pirate Nick's shit.
.com.
If you search
Aha.
if you search 5 Cataclysms, it's one of the first things.
There's
that
a
pops
few
up.
Windows error messages because of the random keyboard
all right.
presses I
All right.
pushed.
Tell you what,
So you
pirate
don't
it.
need to
If you like
download a
it,
lawnmower.
buy it.
So you'll hear those on the podcast, so that means we have to... Oh, fuck, I forgot the drink sign, like, all night. I have a drink sign.
Oh, well, I guess we got a drink.
I finished my drink.
Drink anyway.
I haven't finished
Nick finished
my
his drink, so I have to drink for him. Alright. And next week, we might do something else. That'll be fun. Fuck, I'm drink. I was, like, pre-gaming at band practice before this, so now I'm like... Woo, look at me.
That said, if you guys did want to like play my game, I do have content, assuming you guys actually go to the dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
No, I never.
And if you go in a random direction that isn't the road.
We'll just stay on the road the whole time.
Actually, I wonder how that would shake out. Yeah, because like the one thing that isn't planned is the city that's like 100 miles away,
Spoilers.
Oh,
but everything else.
Oh,
is
God.
up.
Chris
you
is
just start
dying
diving
here,
into lava.
jumping in the lava. So we hope you've joined Chris's inexplicable Minecraft gameplay here on... Maybe next time I'll have to, like, play Halo or something on the stream here.
Inexplicable.
We'll put some on the TV.
Yeah. Alright, so thank you for joining Drink to the Past, and now is the final segment of our podcast where we talk about random bullshit until somebody says something really, really awkward, and I cut the podcast off.
Oh, wasn't it the segment of the podcast for like, quite a while now?
I mean, it sort of was, but Nick was also shilling his shit, so I didn't want to be, like, awkwardly, like, oh, Nick is
You
shilling
did
his
not
shit.
so
I'm
awkwardly talk over it, but you know.
you know.
Oh well.
Fuck you.
My real question though is, hi Kevin, I'm Nick. Who are you?
Exactly. We have some of the same letters in our name. Isn't that crazy?
No.
Yeah, Kevin and
Alright.
Nick both have an N and a K and an I.
That's right. You can't spell Kevin without most of the letters of Nick. I feel like the math checks out there.
I don't
You
know
got
what
3/4
we're talking
of
about,
Kev.
but I feel like I need to drink again.
All
I
right.
mean,
Is
Drink.
that
You want
Sky
some?
vodka? What is that?
5
Jug,
and
jug, jug,
26
jug,
chins.
Yeah, this is Sky, which I guess my wife got on discount or some shit. I don't know. My
Oh, nice.
my go-to vodka is called Reka, which is a really good Icelandic vodka, which is filtered through lava rocks. And I have no idea if that makes it like
Ostensibly.
different from regular filtration of vodka, but it sounds really like way more metal than normal vodka.
I could have sworn that all vodka was filtered through lava rocks, but I might have been mistaken.
I have no idea. I'm not a vodka guy. I'm mostly a beer guy, and I just drink like weird shit on the podcast because it's fun.
Vodka is mostly about potatoes.
I thought vodka was filtered through potatoes.
Could be.
And then processed by a computer.
I'll process your computer.
Please don't.
Fuck off, zombie. I'm trying to make
It
more
has a
torches.
future.
Chris is fucking a zombie.
No,
Not
but Chris was telling me that there's something wrong with our rule set because it's 1 column instead of 2, and I said, no, because he's right. And also because the mass combat is untested because of coronavirus.
You mine
Oh,
that
yeah.
gold, baby.
I don't know how I didn't catch that before.
Combat at a 6-foot distance?
No, mass combat as in like armies and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there is a mass combat set in there.
I feel like I'm not going to get
But
the
that needs
opportunity,
revising.
but I'm going to shill it out now. I have Mega Man 3 on a Famicom cartridge,
That is amazing.
and it's right in front of me. It's Rockman 3. Isn't that pretty neat?
Wow.
Look at that compared to, like, the Mega Man 3 art. Pretty odd, right?
What?
It is, yeah. I've like seen very few Famicom cartridges in general, so that's like pretty neat. I've always wanted
Yeah,
to
this
have
is,
one.
like, the only one I have.
I was like checking around my parents' house and calling my brothers and being like, "Dude, who has my Zelda 1 cartridge?" just to find it. And I can't find my Zelda 1 cartridge. I'm like, I hope nobody like fucking sold that.
I had mine kicking around, but I threw it away in, like, one of the little storage bins around me. Like, the only thing I have kicking him... I have the Retron playing my NES games.
Right?
So I have Castlevania 3 in there right now, but, like, I have the series of, like, most random games, like, in front of me right now. Famicom Mega Man 3, Sonic 3,
Mm-hmm.
Ocarina of Time.
Right.
3.
Why are they in
Ocarina of
front
Time
you?
3? Whoa. Crazy.
Ocarina of Time 3, I can't believe that the third game made it onto N64.
Right?
MK2, little Mortal Kombat there.
Okay. Monkey.
I have a golden Zelda 1 if someone wants to buy it.
Dude, that's the one that I was literally talking about. It's like somewhere by my parents' house. I'm not totally sure where. I have custom Robo. It's kind of cool.
Oh, custom. Oh, look at that Game Crazy tag there.
Right? Yeah, remember Game Crazy?
MVP price.
Game Crazy used to
was
be my
jam.
fucking place. That was like the place I
love
went for
Game
games.
Crazy.
Yeah, fucking $12.99 for this. I can't believe this. Like I don't even know the price
What
now.
a steal.
Yeah. I'm like,
Custom Robo's got to be like a 50+ game.
yeah, probably. I was looking it up actually. One of the games that I kind of showed off a few weeks ago was I found my old copy of Fire Emblem. What's the GameCube Fire Emblem? Path of Radiance.
The Radiance.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it's like a $300+ game. It's like 300 or
it's nuts.
350, and I was just digging around in my parents' house, and I was
GameCube,
like,
man.
yes, I found it. I'm so happy. I was like crazy happy. Another one that I know is somewhat expensive is good old Wind Waker. Is about $200, $250.
Kmart. Oh wait, no, is that the? Oh, it's Legends Choice.
Yeah, it is the player's
Player's
choice. But yeah, like this is a pretty expensive copy. Is the original GameCube copy of Wind Waker. So I was
Now, even more the
Yeah.
I have
Ocarina of
that.
Time Master Quest version.
that's the other one that I know I have at my parents' house.
I don't know where it is.
Somewhere. And I was like, I wanted to replay it on GameCube because I've been replaying my Legend of Zelda Collector's Disc, and I've been like, I want to replay the quote-unquote original Master Quest on GameCube, and
So
I
you're
looked
gonna get it in
through,
America.
I looked through all my games, and I couldn't find it, and so I know it's at my parents' house somewhere, but I've been looking around, and that's why I found my Fire Emblem. Because I was like looking around and I was like I couldn't find it, and I looked online and I was like it's like $100 to $150, and I'm like I'm not gonna pay
Yeah.
that much for the Master Quest again when I have it on 3DS, right? I'm like if I didn't have it on
Yeah.
3DS I would probably consider it, but I have it on 3DS, so it's like
Before 3DS, that was the only way you could play it.
yeah,
It's nuts.
yeah. I was one of the handful of people. Like, I'm not sure I know another person that played the GameCube Master Quest before the 3DS version came out. So now I know
My
one.
friend
Now I know
Spencer
one.
has it. Had it.
I snagged these
Our
sweet
friend Spencer. Remember to
N64
make
end
copies.
labels online that were like pretty dope. They published everything through Etsy and had like every single N64 title through it.
Awesome.
So I have like, of all things, like the Mortal Kombat trilogy, Kirby 64, Mario Kart.
I loved Kirby 64. That was awesome.
Kirby 64 is my jam. I love that game.
I got the steelbook for Final Fantasy VII Remake. Was the random next thing I found.
That is awesome.
That's cool. I like Sephiroth. I dig it. Cloud's hotter. Like, people say Sephiroth is hot, and I'm like, dude, you know Cloud exists, right?
He's in Smash. Come
Right?
on.
I mean, you guys. So I guess you should post like a screenshot of like the PS1 era graphics.
Right, yeah.
Be like, yeah, it's so hot.
Bandicoot. I'm like
Just
trying
put
to
those,
find
like, boxes.
trying to fish for magic cards here, but like I have the commander, the Sultai commanders.
Nice. I showed off my
2020 or
limited
2019.
run. I showed off this one last week or a couple of weeks ago, I think. This is a limited run card that came with Blasphemous.
Oh,
It's the same size as
That
a
is
magic
pretty
card.
cool.
That's cool.
throw it in a sleeve.
Are we comparing cards now? I got the Godzilla lands.
I don't have too much to compare against, but like,
Right.
I have a few commander decks that are kicking in like fat packs that I have in the other room, but the one thing that I will always keep together is I have my I have a nice Is It deck, like an Is It Madness deck
Awesome.
with the Zendikar lands that I just like. I love these Zendikar.
I love the
lands.
Zendikar just in general. Zendikar was like my jam. Like when I was playing Magic in Standard, I was playing Zendikar. Zendikar was like right
This is when I got
the
into
set.
it.
Yeah, like I was into it like long before that, but the time that I was like into it was Zendikar, was like that whole block, like Zendikar and M10 through M11 kind of was like bookends on the end of that, where it's like Zendikar and World Wake and those kind of times. And Zendikar, the lands were like, I don't think there's another land that I think is cooler art other than maybe these badass Godzilla things that I just got. So, you know, there's that.
I don't know if I could ever beat Zendikar, and having like the rotation that I was in at the time was like ridiculous. Like playing Madness, like spellcasting cards was like really cool, and you had like the Eldrazi influence of things. So it's like you could play Slip Through Space and like draw up through like Jory and Rune Rider.
I was always more aggro-y when I played Magic. I still am when I make Magic decks.
It's a pretty aggressive deck too.
Yeah. So I never did a lot of those kind of combo things, but I always did fairly aggro-y things, and I remember even then I actually did okay, because like I remember like several times I'd find people that spent a bunch of money. I could tell because like they'd play the really expensive Jace card, was one of the most expensive planeswalkers at the time.
Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Yeah, Jace the Mind Sculptor. They'd play him,
and they're publishing him in Double Masters.
Every time they play Jace the Mind Sculptor, I'd get scared because I'd assume they were playing something great, but then I was playing aggro, so I'd like kill him in like 1 or 2 turns, and he wouldn't even matter.
Red cards.
Most of the time, because I very seldom played somebody who was playing Jace the Mind Sculptor well.
Yeah. It's a great card. It's probably one of the best cards.
Because that was when I was doing like $20 and $30 decks, and I was like, just like, okay, yeah, let's figure out what I can do to compete in Standard for $20 to $30, and I could do okay. I had a pretty good Blightning deck. Blightning is a great red-black card, Rakdos card.
Sure.
And most of my deck was kind of based around that. I had like a bunch of red-black cards, and some of them were like Jund or other things where it was like they were technically 3 colors, but I could play them with only red and black, so it was okay. So I had like Grixis Grimblade was a good one that I had that was like I think he was like 1/3, and if you had any other multicolored creature, he got +1/+1 Death Touch or something like that. So then he's like a 2/4 with Death Touch.
2/4 Death Touch
for 3 or 2 or 3, something like that. And then Grixis, or no, wait. Jund Hackblade was a goblin, was like the same kind of thing, where he's like a 3/1, but he gets haste and +1/+1 if you have another multicolored creature. So if I got the 2 of them in the first couple of turns, it's like you're just done. I got a really big hasty guy, and I got a pretty good death touch guy. It's like, yeah, it's cool. It's a ton of fun.
Oh, heck yeah. I'm thinking, like, for me, like, with Jund at least, like, I play the Lord Windgrace Commander deck. Mm-hmm. So, like, Jund Commander, like, as a Planeswalker is pretty fun. But I feel like the Sultai cards always get me. Uh-huh. So, like, I play a few, like, Sultai Commanders, like Rayami from Commander 19. Mm-hmm. I played a Kadena Sultai deck from the latest Commander set. Mm. Oh, no, Atromi was before that. The 2019 Commander set. And I played this against a buddy of mine. And we sat down at a local game store. Mm-hmm. And I played this deck against him. And I got like 30 permanents on the field. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't close the game out. And after that game, I ripped the deck apart. Because I couldn't win. How could I not win with 30 permanents down? So I ripped that apart. Yeah. I pulled that into my Rayami deck.
I found my actual blasphemous Switch case too.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, which is cool. It comes with a little comic book if you got the limited run. So that's super cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I feel like that's rare for games now, where it's like, you get the game, here you go.
Yeah, it's like, especially for these little indie games like Blasphemous, it's like you don't always even get a physical version, which is kind of, I feel like really lucky because like I held out on the Blasphemous when I first saw it. I was like, that looks really cool. And then when Limited Run Games was like, hey, we're making a physical run of Blasphemous, I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna buy it, and so I did. So
Nice.
stuff like that is like. That's really what I dig. So, yeah, all right. None of us have said anything really awkward. So, the fuck's wrong with us?
Minecraft.
You guys are talking about something. You guys are talking about.
Hey,
There's
Nick's
nothing
still
really
here.
awkward about it.
Nick is
Hello.
still here.
Hi, Nick.
And welcome.
How you doing?
Hello and welcome.
Hey, Sean. How are you?
Hello and welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome.